Gary Mayogit, Cahirlock. Yes, I support this bill, and I support it on the very simple premise that this is our national lottery. It's independently regulated. It should have an ethos of care that goes above and beyond, and it should be contained, and it should be a controlled environment, or more controlled environment. 30 cents of every euro collected goes to good causes, and that dividend on which the National Lottery is based, it isn't going where it should do whenever you purchase it in the bookies. Look, I'm very much of the opinion that we should be juxtaposing, I suppose, the National Lottery and good causes, and what are our low odds and draws and community lotteries in one area, and then gambling in another, which I believe we do have two pieces of legislation that oversees them both. But I do think that we have to do everything that we can around that ethos of care. Because the consumer doesn't make the distinction. So I did read what the Irish Bookmakers Association sent, and I too, I'm not a hypocrite. I enjoy a flutter, a Punchestown or Fairy House. But I've opted into those events as an adult, introduced to gambling, I suppose, in a lesson-based way, and in an environment where I think it was a lot more controlled, and I think that's very important, because the blur between gambling and entertainment has gone too far, and it does bleed into family entertainment, and it is very accessible. But with just looking at the reasons for retaining it as it is, it's not the controlled environment that my colleague Senator Carrigan has outlined in relation to the local retailer, and that 5 cents that might be used to buy a lottery ticket or to, I suppose, put down a bet is upselling, and that's not what this is supposed to be. And from what I believe, the player protections are there in relation to banning not using credit cards. And it definitely does, by acquiring or purchasing through the bookies, it definitely displaces good cause money, whereas there are transaction limits, there's ID verification, and there's time restrictions even on the online presence. So, you know, there's a responsibility there in relation to best practice, and I think that needs to continue and be taken very seriously. The organisations that have benefited through the sports capital grant, even in my own area, it's a phenomenal amount of money, 6 billion since it started. So look, I very much will welcome when we see the gambling regulator bill, and when we see that regulation coming in. I agree that advertising is, we need to do a lot of work on that. And I think the positioning of bookmakers over the last 10 years has been that they've kind of rebranded. They used to be a place where they were smoke-filled, only men over a certain age really predominantly would have gone into a bookmakers. They rebranded, repositioned themselves 10 years ago, and completely have changed their market, not just online but physically as well, and that has had a big impact, and we need to take control of that. But I don't see the National Lottery in that guise, but we need to make sure that we protect that and commit ourselves to that, and make that ethos of care a huge priority, and and make sure that the social dividend is going where it should. Thank you.